Hey guys, it's JC Theater Yu-Gi-Oh here today, and I'm coming at you with a Shaddoll Invoked deck profile for you guys. Now, I do want to preface this with saying right now, at the time of recording this video, the Shaddoll structure deck came out just a few days ago, and because of that, anything related to Invoked has definitely gone up a lot in price. I definitely recommend you waiting a bit for the card prices to go down before potentially picking this up. The only reason I have this deck built is purely because I've had the Invoked engine for a while now, and for future reference, whenever you see something like that, like the Invoked engine, where it's an archetype that just happens to work generically well with a lot of other strategies, whenever it reaches a low enough price point, in your opinion, you should definitely pick them up sooner rather than later, so that way you don't end up seeing that they have this shit all structured X out and you're unable to get the Invoke stuff. But without further ado, let's just get right into the deck profile for you guys. So first off, I am playing 3 of the new Shaddoll Wendy. Now this is interesting because usually the Shaddoll monsters were all, the main deck monsters anyway, were all Spellcaster Dark Attribute monsters that were flip effect. The new Shaddoll cards that came out in this deck are still flip effect monsters, but they also are an actual attribute other than Dark. So this one here is Wind. She's Psychic type, and you can, her flip effect is you can special summon 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck in face up or face down defense position, except a copy of herself. And then her normal effect is if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck in face down defense position, except a copy of herself. You can only use one of those effects per turn, but ultimately this is a very good effect on her. She definitely helps turbo out a lot of cards from the deck onto the field. Additionally, another 3 of Shaddoll card, the classic Shaddoll Squamata. Now his flip effect reads that you can target 1 monster on the field and destroy it, but better than that is if he's sent from the field, or if he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can send 1 Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard, except a copy of Squamata. So that's definitely good because he can be both a Foolish Burial or, more importantly, a Foolish Burial Goods for this deck. So that's definitely good, especially with some other new cards in the deck. Now onto the one-ofs of the Shaddoll monsters. We play 1 of the new Nail Shaddoll Ariel. Now she's level 4, she's Water Attribute, and she's Psychic Flip Effect. And her flip effect is you can target 1 of your banished Shaddoll monsters and special summon it in face-up or face-down defense position. And then her normal effect, if she's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target up to 3 cards in the graveyards and banish them. So that she's more niche, and she can possibly not even be played, but the fact that she's water just kind of helps with the fact that she can be another attribute when you need 2 different attribute Shaddoll monsters for the new Shaddoll Fusion. And additionally, her bringing back a remove from play Shaddoll does help when we get into the trap card later on. Also, for the rest of the 3 one-of Shaddolls, we have Shaddoll Dragon, Shaddoll Beast, and Shaddoll Hedgehog. Dragon's flip effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, return it to the hand, and if he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Shaddoll Beast's flip effect is you draw 2 cards and discard 1 card, and if he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to just simply draw a card. And then Hedgehog, his flip effect is you can add 1 Shaddoll spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or if he's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand, except a copy of himself. So these are all just generically good, honestly, or generically good in terms of Shaddolls anyway, but honestly, if you want to run like a playset of a certain hand trap that I'm not already playing in this deck, I definitely recommend maybe 2 or 3 of these cut, because the newer ones, the 3 of Squamata and the 3 of Wendy are definitely necessary in this build. But Nail Shaddoll Ariel and then these 3 here, you can give or take whatever you want from these. But personally, I kind of like Beast because he's a simple draw if you use him with Shaddoll Fusion. Next up, we play 3 Alistair the Invoker, because it can't be Shaddoll Invoked without some of the Invoked as well as the Shaddoll. He has a quick effect. You can send him from your hand to the graveyard to target one fusion monster you control, and it gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end phase, but you never use that. Instead, if he's normal summoned or flip faced up, you can add one invocation from your deck to your hand. That second effect is the best. He's a really good normal summon that allows you, like I just mentioned, to add invocation, which is the Invoked fusion spell. Additionally, which when we get to the extra deck, this will make a little more sense, we play 3 Gale Dogra. Gale Dogra goes in and out of relevancy. I know for a time he was good with certain ritual strategies because he could send Herald of Perfection to the graveyard in order to search. Gale Dogra, what it does, you pay 3,000 life points to Foolish Burial something from your extra deck. This is really good. Like I said, when we get into the extra deck, I'll explain it. But ultimately, since it isn't once per turn, all Gale Dogra needs is you just normal summon it, and you can use his effect twice since you start with 8,000 life points. You end up after this with 2,000 life points, but hey, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So hopefully you can push for game after you use Gale Dogra's effects and stuff. Next up for hand traps, I just play 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. It's fire attribute, which is good, and additionally it's just good in general as a hand trap. And then finally, the last monster in the main deck is going to be the 1 Performage Trick Clown, because it is light attribute. It's a classic. If it gets sent to the graveyard, you could pay 1,000 to bring it back onto the field, so you can use it for link fodder or whatever you would like. Next, on to the spell and traps. So for the 1-of spell and traps, we have 1 Foolish Burial Goods, and that beautiful platinum rare, which everyone hates but I find amazing. 1 Monster Reborn, and then 1 Emergency Teleport. Emergency Teleport's kind of weird. I like it personally because you can bring out Wendy, the new Shaddoll monster, because she is a level 3 psychic. But honestly, this is kind of just to get a body on board. Since you're running 3 of her, you can still use other combos with her the way you'd want to, where this just kind of like uses her as something on the field. Definitely cut it though if you're not feeling it. It isn't too important to the deck. It's just a personal preference. Next up, another 1-of. We play 1 El Shaddoll Fusion, which is basically a quick play fusion for the deck. You just fusion summon 1 Shaddoll fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. Basic polymerization effect. Limited to Shaddolls, but it's a quick play, so that's definitely really good. Next up, for some invocation action, we play 2 Invocations. Invocation is very good. You can fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion materials. And if you summon an invoked fusion monster this way, you can also banish monsters from your field or either player's graveyard as fusion materials as well. And then you can target, if it's in your graveyard, you can target 1 banished Alistair the Invoker and shuffle both Invocation and the add the Alistair to your hand. So you shuffle Invocation into the deck, and then you send Alistair from the banished zone to your hand. So you can use Alistair. You can even use it to boost your fusion up maybe a little bit. But ultimately, Invocation's very good. We just run 2 of them because Alistair, since we run 3 of, if you normal summon him, he can search this, and then this can recur the Alistair, as well as it allows you to, the Alistair next turn when you normal summon him, add this back to your hand. Invocation's very good, and additionally, I'm running the 1 Terraforming with 3 Magical Meltdown, which is the field spell of the deck. Magical Meltdown, when it's activated, you can add 1 Alistair the Invoker from your deck to your hand, and the activation of your cards and effects that include the effect of fusion summoning a fusion monster cannot be negated, and your opponent's cards cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned that way. And you can only activate 1 of these a turn in case it gets, like, I don't know, MST'd, you can't use another one. But this is very good. It basically allows you to get some extra protections on your fusion summoning to make sure it actually goes through. And another extra protection, since we're searching a lot, is we play 3 Called by the Grave, as well as we play 3 Super Polymerization, which basically lets you use either side of the field as a quick play in order to fusion summon out a monster, which is definitely good because both the invoked monsters as well as the Shaddoll monsters basically use a invoked or Shaddoll as well as, or Alistair the Invoker and a Shaddoll, as well as a monster of a certain attribute. So this card basically, the way, depending on how you like stack up your extra deck, this can hit a lot of different monsters your opponent controls, and they can't really respond to it at all, so it's very powerful. Next up, I play 3 Shaddoll Fusion. If you don't know what this does, this is what makes Shaddolls good, in my opinion. It basically, if your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, you can use materials from your deck in order to bring out a Shaddoll monster, which is very, very strong and powerful. Finally, in the deck, the only 3 traps are the new trap card, Resh Shaddoll Incarnation. This thing has 2 effects, one on activation and one in the graveyard. You target one Shaddoll monster in your graveyard and special summon it in face up or face down defense positions, so that way you can get any flip effects off if you may. And then you can banish him as well as one Shaddoll card from your graveyard to activate one of the effects, which there's 2 options. You change one face down monster you control to face up defense position, aka activate one of your Shaddoll flip effects, or you change one face-up monster you control to face-down defense position, so that way you can have it flip back up and use its flip effect again on your opponent's turn, probably. So that's the main deck for you guys. Let's run right into the extra deck. The extra deck is pretty standard in terms of a Shaddoll Invoked deck. For the Link monsters, I just simply play 2 Alistair the Invoker of Madness, 1 Shaddoll Construct, and then these are some generic links that I have. I highly recommend Apollosa if you have it, especially if you're running this deck. You probably have quite a large budget, so you'd probably have Apollosa, but I play 1 Boral Load, 1 Boral Sword, and 1 Avermax. And then for the fusions, for the Invoked fusions, let's start off with 1 Kaliga, 1 Purgatrio, and 1 Makaba. And those are the 3 Invoked fusion we play in the deck. I think these are the best 3 because Kaliga, if a player's monster effect attempts to activate, none of that player's monsters can activate their effects for the rest of the turn while Kaliga is face up on the field, and each player can only attack with 1 monster during each battle phase. He's quite weak, but with 1800 defense and his limited, he'll at least like work for 1 turn, you know, until your opponent can beat on over Kaliga. And since he's dark, he's Alistair the Invoker and 1 dark monster, he's very easy to bring out in this Shaddoll deck. Purgatrio's good because he gains 200 attack for each card your opponent controls, and he can attack all monsters your opponent controls each. And if he attacks a defense position monster, he inflicts piercing battle damage. This is good because he takes Alistair the Invoker and a fire attribute monster, and Ash Blossom is a very, very common hand trap, both for you to use, and in this build I do run it in the main deck, and your opponent is probably using it. So this is definitely, will probably be able to be summoned very easily, and he gets pretty big pretty quickly, and with his battle effects, he can push for a lot of damage. Finally, Makaba is probably the most notable and popular invoked monster. He takes a light attribute, and once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated, you can send the same type of card, monster, spell, or trap, from your hand to the graveyard to negate the activation and banish that card. So it's definitely very good. Obviously, in this build, trying to negate trap cards will be a little more tricky since we're only running 3 traps in the deck. But other than that, this is very good because it just allows for some negations to happen and go off. Additionally, let's get into the Shaddoll monsters here, which I play 1 Construct with the alternate art there, 1 Shekinaga, and 1 Winda. So these are 3 of the classic Shaddoll fusion monsters. Shekinaga, I would probably cut and add a different Link monster or something of that nature, because this one's probably the least important Shaddoll. But Winda is definitely super good because it cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, and each player can only special summon monsters once per turn when it's face up on the field. And then Construct's effect is if it's special summon, you can send one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. So another Foolish Burial, like a Squamata, and at the start of the damage step, if it battles a special summon monster, you can destroy that monster. And both Construct, Winda, and Shekinaga, if they're sent to the graveyard, you can target one Shaddoll spell or trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand, so basically you can recur your Shaddoll fusion that you used probably in order to bring these guys out. Finally, for a 3-of, I have 3 of the new El Shaddoll App Colony. Now this is interesting because this gal right here, her materials are 2 Shaddoll monsters with different attributes, which is quite easy in this deck since we're playing both Dark, Wind, and Water Shaddolls in the main deck. And she must be fusion summoned and can't be destroyed by battle, and you can only use each of her following effects once per turn, but if she's special summoned, you can target one face-up card on the field and negate its effects. Or you can use, if she is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Shaddoll card from your deck or graveyard to your hand and then discard one card. This card is important, and I play it at 3 copies because this card is the reason we play Gale Dogra. So Gale Dogra, I mentioned earlier, you can use its effect twice per turn. For this deck in particular, you'll just be using it once per turn since this card here, Shaddoll App Colony, can only be activated once per turn, but you just Foolish Burial using Gale Dogra her from your extra deck to the graveyard in order to search a Shaddoll card and get some plays going that way. It's kind of slow in a sense, but at the same time, if you have the right cards in your hand, this can really go off quite well and end you with a very nice starting board. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know I have some issues probably with the build, but ultimately this is just, of course, from 3 structure decks. I rarity upgraded a lot of them from the Battles of Legend that I picked up a while ago, like just the copies from there, and then all of that good stuff like the Invoked cards. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!